session with Mr. Ed Sprague on November 5th, 2007. And we're interviewing Mr. Sprague for the Southwestern Yacht Club History Committee. So, how long have you been a member at Southwestern?
I believe I joined in 1962, but you have to look at my application to find out.
Well, you know, it's probably in the roster someplace too. So, 1962. And had you lived in San Diego for a while, or did you just?
No, I relocated. I had come down to see my dad, and he had asked me to go on vacation to Mexico to a little town called Alamos, and I agreed to that. And I left San Francisco in what they called a snowstorm. And it was actually snowing. I had an overcoat on. And,
in San Francisco?
Yeah,
Wow.
at International Airport. And I arrived in San Diego and it was 90 degrees. And I had this overcoat. And I was kind of out of touch with the community. In any event, I ended up, my mother lived in Palo Alto. And I ended up never going back. My dad convinced me that I should stay here, and I did.
And so you've been in San Diego ever since then?
Right.
That was about when?
1960.
So you couldn't resist the weather, is that it?
Yeah. I don't think I saw a cloud in the first year. It was remarkable.
That would be a big change from the Bay Area. So then, had you been sailing before that you moved here, or
Well, my dad, I was born in the Hawaiian Islands, and my dad had the unusual duty, after spending some time mapping the South Pacific, anticipation of World War II, of caring for the officers' sailboats. And there was a Block Island Ketch, 3 PCs, a couple of star boats, and miscellaneous other boats. And his duty was to keep the boats ready for the officers when they wanted to use them. And while he was out there, he built the Tahiti Ketch, and I don't remember all of this because I was born.
He built it himself?
Yes. And so when I came to San Diego, he said, "Son, how much money do you have?" After we got finished, he expected to get vacation. And I said, $500. And he says, "That'll get you a car and a boat." And so we answered an ad in the paper for a 51 Ford.
I had a 51 Ford too.
And so we went down to this chicken ranch in Chula Vista, and it was out in the chicken yard, and it was a convertible, and the top was gone, and the chickens were roosting on and my dad had brought a battery because the guy says it will need a battery. And so we fired it up and it ran, and we took it home, and being an old Navy man, first thing he did was hose out the inside, but I didn't know how I was going to get this thing clean. Pulled out all the carbon.
Be a real challenge.
And I drove it for, I think I paid $100 for it, and I drove it for 5 or 6 years and sold it for $500. It was a good deal. And then I bought a Snipe sailboat, and it took a lot of repair. And I had money left over from this $500.
Had you sailed in Hawaii as a child?
No. I left there when I was 1 year. We went to Coronado. And I forgot what I was saying.
About the Snipe.
So we get this Snipe, and that was another 6-month project. It had to be rebuilt, new mast, new sails, and all that stuff. So we did that also in my dad's driveway. And then we needed a place to put it. there was a place called Boat and Trailer Port. How long have you been in San Diego?
About 20 years.
Well, this is a place that used to be over by Gettenberg's, and it had hoist, and you can park your boat there and watch it go sailing. And the price was pretty reasonable. I think it was $10 a month. And when I put the boat away every night or whenever, I parked it by 2 or 3 starboats, and I thought they were beautiful. And so I went to made an offer on this boat, I think for $500, and I went to the Park West San Diego Trust and Savings. Told the manager there I wanted to buy a boat. He said, well, we don't really take boats on collateral. What else do you have? I just nothing. And he says, okay, Ed, we'll make you the loan. And I was a San Diego Trust customer after that. And so I acquired a boat and sailed it out of Boat and Trailer Port. And got interested in racing and raced it. And Bill Chrysler was building a boat behind San Diego Marine Exchange. And he would see my comings and going. And there were 2 other guys that owned the other 2 starboats, Boat and Trailer Port, Reini Braun, a German immigrant, and another fellow by the name of Norb Boudreau. And Chrysler came over to us one day, and I guess Southwestern was having a membership drive.
Do you remember about when that was?
62.
This is all happening fast, isn't it?
It could have been 60.
Well, it could have been,
Well,
but I think
that's
it's come
close.
till 60 and time passed.
That's close enough.
But it might have been 61. And it was like manna from heaven when Chrysler came over, because in order to sail a starboat, you need a hoist. And I knew Southwestern had a hoist. And so did the other 2 guys. And it would make us official racing, because you had to be a member of the Yacht Club. And so, that's Chester, by the way.
Oh, Chester's wonderful. I met him on the way in.
And so I told Chrysler I didn't have any money, and he said, well, that's not a problem, Ed. He says, you can pay your initiation fee, which I don't know, it was $500 over a year. We'll arrange it special with the board of directors. And got to know his in-life plan.
And isn't Bill Chrysler a delightful person?
Oh.
He and Kathy were interviewed too. We had them on tape. So
And their son, Bill Jr. And so we all went over to Southwestern and started sailing and racing and having a great time. And Billy Chrysler was always hanging around the small boat yard. And he was, I think, my first great crew. And he used to mini hike on the starboat when it was sitting on the trailer, and that really impressed me. So,
did your group organize the snipe racing competition, or had it been going on before at Southwestern?
no, there were no stars in Southwestern. There was
I mean, stars. not-
lightnings and snipes and blue jays, I believe. Jerry McCory and Roy Benstead. I think Bill Chrysler. Because I would crew on the Lightning for a little while. No. And I ran into an interesting... Have you seen my book?
No. They told me that there was one at the club, but at the time, no one knew for sure where it was. This was at the meeting
That's
last.
because, what's his name?
Jeff?
No. Nick Caldwell locked it up. I thought it was.
Oh, well, that's good. With special books like that, like I've gotten a couple books too, that we keep them in the manager's office or we keep them locked up. If we put them in the library, then, that's a problem. Oh, beautiful. Oh, my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we have those at the club. I'll have to.
I think they're gonna start selling them at the front desk. But in any event, the reason I bring it up is in the process of writing this book, it's about the San Diego Bay Star Fleet, but necessarily it includes fleets around the world because San Diego Bay Star sailors competed against it. And Frida convinced me that I ought to go to the LA Public Library to research the early days of stars. And what is that? And it was a wealth of information because there was a periodical called Pacific Coast Yachting that ceased publication in the mid-30s.
I've seen copies.
And it is the prose in it from these old writers. It was just fascinating to read, but it had a wealth of information about the history of the yacht clubs and stars racing. And one of the things I learned in there, which is not public knowledge in San Diego because of San Diego Yacht Club, I believe, is that the starlet, you know what a starlet is?
Didn't Bill Chrysler build one of those or have one of those?
I'm not sure.
Somebody introduced those at Southwestern Yacht Club. I'm not sure who it was, but it would have been back about this time.
Well, San Diego Yacht Club takes credit for the introduction of the starlet. And what really happened was 2 members from San Diego and 2 members from Southwestern agreed to buy a starlet before any were made if Kettenberg would build them. Or Kettenberg says, if you can get 4 buyers, I'll build 4.
That's the story, yeah.
And this was before the war. And so San Diego and Southwestern had a fleet, and it always comes across in San Diego that the starlet was invented by them and got started by them, and our club participated in it. Called Star, which is a scaled-down version of the Starboat.
I think Bill Chrysler was telling me some about that story because I remember where it was a little team of people.
But among the yacht club community is not very well known because of San Diego. And I have a lot of.
And that was about when you said it was before the war, so.
Yes, it's in my book. You have to look at my book. There's a whole section of starlets.
So the first starboat was made, or the idea came in 1925?
No, that's when the San Diego Bay Star Fleet was formed. And the starboat dates back to 1909. And I think you should feed him, Frida. He's distracting.
When I came in, I said, I saw him, I met him, and I said, I bet he's in charge here. And she said, yes.
So I don't know how he
Cats have a power of their own, don't they?
got on the starlet. Oh, I wanted to say that it's in my book about the history of it and the Southwestern connection. But I sailed with and against all the guys down at San Diego Yacht Club, and it's a great group of guys. And I'm not putting San Diego down. It's just that they take credit sometimes for too much.
They really do. I've noticed that, yeah. So then, how did it work? You would have races at certain times. And only the Starboats raced in those.
Well, initially, San Diego Yacht Club sponsored all of the races, and sometimes we'd race in the bay, but seldom, mostly on the Coronado roads. And in those days, I'm not sure, again, it was the Association of Yacht Clubs or San Diego Yacht Club had a series of buoys, which were nothing more than telephone poles painted red and white on all points of the compass. And you go out and the race flimsy would say the windward marker is going to be A or C or D. And it was kind of hard to figure out. They were so close together, which one was A or D.
Real challenge.
And so we used that course for many years. And then I tried to get Southwestern involved, but they didn't have a race committee vote, and they were borrowing boats in those days. And they weren't too reliable, but they did, for a while, start some of our races. Talking too much?
Oh, no, I'm just making sure, I like to make sure it's still going. Because I don't want to lose the conversation.
Yeah, I took a tape recorder down to San Diego Yacht Club to talk to the old timers when they were honoring Milt Wegeforth. This is one of the world's, whatever year, simple. And I got to turn it on.
So how long did it take you to write this? Because that is, quite a volume thing.
Well, Ermengarde Ryan, former office manager of San Diego Yacht Club, called me on the centennial of San Diego Yacht Club, which was 1986, to write a little history about the Star Fleet, because I've been district secretary, fleet captain, and secretary many times. And I sent her 15 pages, and she condensed it to 3. But I realized when I wrote the 15 pages, she just couldn't tell a story. And so my wife encouraged me to write a book. So
Good for her.
it took me from 86 till early this year when we got printed copies to get it done.
1986. And it's just been printed then. Oh. I
Unfortunately,
am glad I'm interviewing you because the yacht club should know that, because we don't have very many authors. So that's great.
well, I just spoke at St. Francis Yacht Club, which was a very intimidating experience with all these movers and shakers up there.
Now, that's where Billy Chrysler is
Right, and
a member.
he crewed on Stars and sailed Stars up there. I don't think he sails them anymore. Too busy with his business.
Were you talking to them about the Starboats?
Well, yeah, they invited me up to sell the book at their once-a-month luncheon that they hold. And Sophie and I went up and spoke for this august body of people, which were, important people in San Francisco. It's kind of intimidated me.
Yeah, but it must have been sort of fun too.
Yeah,
Be there.
and it's such a beautiful yacht club. I've sailed up there many times in the old clubhouse, but it burned down, but the new one is just fabulous. It's a huge facility, and they reap with money. I don't know how they, yacht clubs are always on a shoestring. They don't seem to have that problem up there.
A lot of big press people who leave money to them.
I guess, I don't know. But a bunch of rich people, I think.
Well, I think you ought to be commended to have encouraged him after he got a little sample of how much fun it was to write it, to keep going, because, like I said, we don't have very many authors at Southwestern, so I think everybody needs to know know about this. And the one thing that they told me about you was that you had been or they were talking about that you had really been very involved with the Starfleet. And then they talked about the book, but nobody knew quite where it was.
As a result, most of the boats are at San Diego, and so I spent a lot of time in San Diego because that's where the fleet was centered, and not so much time at Southwestern. And they always, I think, thought I was snooty or something, but it was just the fact of where the boats were sailed.
And it's just like Craig Mueller, his boat was over there, even though he was our member, but his boat was there, so a lot of people didn't really get to know him very well either.
In fact, I was asked several times, the last time by Bill Munster, to join San Diego, and I said, no, Bill, I'm quite happy where I am. The regular membership over there is kind of stuck on themselves. The starboat sailors are a great group of guys, even though they included some fancy names like Dan Burnham and Kim Fletcher and whatnot. They're all just do anything. In fact, Malin, I asked him when I started the book, or I was having a discussion with him, saying that the printing cost of the book is going to be a lot, and I'm not going to have that many copies to print, and it's going to be expensive, and since 1986, we've never had another conversation about it. And when I told him the book was out, and I was having Johnny, his son, bring a copy of it to him, he said, Ed, I remember a conversation sometime back where I would help you with the printing costs. And the very next day in the mail, I had a check for $10,000. And he brought it up. I'd bring it up again. Frida had convinced me that if I had him contribute, I might not tell all I know. And
It can be a little limited.
and there's some stories in there about his former wife that not too charitable.
Well, it's good that he remembered that he intended to do it.
Unbelievable.
He hadn't made that particularly clear to you, I guess.
Unbelievable. But he's always been very generous. I remember sitting down at a Starfleet meeting upstairs in the boardroom at San Diego Yacht Club, and there was a break in the meeting, and Malin decided that he was going to go downstairs and order beer for everybody. And he had overheard a conversation I had with Dick Slater that if I had a new jib, or a better jib, I could whoop it. And he apparently heard this. He was sitting at the opposite end of the table. I guess maybe I was loud or something. And he came back and said that girls were bringing up the beer, and he very adroitly slung this jib bag down the board table, brand new. I could not believe it. And he says, maybe that'll shut you up, Ed. I'll never forget that.
So did you race him?
Well, I had never had a chance of beating Malin. I may have beat him once or twice in 40 years, but not very often. But I did begin to beat Dick Slater.
And he was San Diego Yacht Club also?
Yeah.
Who were the most active Southwestern star racers at that time, if there weren't?
Norm Boudreau and Reinhold Braun, both are no longer members. They've gone bigger and better things. One lives on the East Coast, and one lives in Los Angeles, of all things. He worked for General Dynamics and invented a gizmo that was 1/4 of the weight that basically converted DC to AC current on airplanes, jet passenger planes. And the weight that was saved made his dealy bob.
big item.
Yeah, and he made a lot of money. And then he quit General Dynamics and went in and bought a chain of beauty parlors, of all things. But he's up in Los Angeles, I don't know the name of the company. Did you meet him? And Norm Boudreau was a Frenchman, and he wasn't much of a sailor, and he couldn't tie his boat up. One day, he tied his boat up, came undone, and the sails were up, and it was in the small boat area in front of the hoist, and it was sailing up and down, tacking itself. And Norm turned to me and he said they had to do something. And I said, Norm, you're gonna have to jump in and go get the boat. I'm not working. And that's what he did. So it was funny.
So then there weren't really too many people at
No,
Southwestern?
never were. There was such a center of starboat activity in San Diego. I tried to develop it, but it was difficult to compete against San Diego.
And also, wasn't Southwestern more into lightnings?
Yeah, initially when I joined the Blue Jays and Snipes, but more in lightnings, and they were a fun boat to sail. I remember one day crewing for, I think it was Roy Benstead, and we were going across the bay downwind. Billy Chrysler was with me, and we didn't know anything about spinnakers to start with when I was going. And Benstead got nervous because a squall was coming through, and the wind was blowing about 30. And he says, take the spinnaker down. Well, Billy and I, idea of taking the spinnaker down was letting the halyard guy and sheet go. And the spinnaker was still flying out in front of the boat about 30 feet. And I forget who it was. Roy Benstead said, guys, I don't have any choice. I'm going to have to round up. We're going to capsize because we were heading right to the shore. And I remember falling from the high side on the Lightning into the bay in the middle of winter. And the shock was, it was so cold. But the Coast Guard promptly came and pumped us out. And we went racing again.
Yeah, Roy was one of the people who was enthusiastic about you being
Oh, yeah,
interviewed.
he was very enthusiastic about his life.
What did you participate in other phases of the club other than the
Race committee initially, when I could, because I was too busy sailing the starboat. And then later in my old age, I got feeling guilty about not participating in club functions, and I got roped into being treasurer for 3 years, which was kind of a disaster.
which is one of the hardest jobs of all. Yeah.
And it was the time when Cook was Commodore, and we were replacing the docks. And the docks were very controversial. There was the concrete people and the wood people. And I decided, from a financial standpoint, that we could afford the concrete, and they wouldn't last anyway.
That's true.
And so the night that the board decided on what to do, they voted for wood docks. And Cook was so mad. Cotter.
Ed Cotter.
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask.
Ed Cotter.
Yeah.
He was so mad, and the board meetings would go on until 2 and 3 in the morning. They were unbelievable. Bunch of nonsense. Anyway, he got so mad, and this boat was taken early on, and the Commodore didn't have a boat, but he was wanting the concrete docks. He got so mad, he turned his chair around and faced the wall for the rest of the meeting. And when I came out of that board meeting, I had a white Quantum station wagon, and all the windows, they were all white. And I had thought somebody took it out on me. But what had happened is a flock of hares had gone over and just lambasted my car. And I was happy to hear that it was just that.
Just birds.
Yeah. But the board sided with me, and that really ticked me off.
So you made up for not having been participating in all of the club business by being treasurer for 3 years.
Yeah,
That's a
but
hard job.
the politics I didn't like at all.
Most people don't. That's why it's hard to get people to do that job. It's still difficult.
Yeah. And also, as each Commodore would come in, they would all have their own idea of what to wear on opening day. And I forget whether it was Cowder or who it was, but one year they wanted us to wear Stevens caps, Southwestern thing, and white belt, white shoes, and of course legend, and a special tie, not just a Southwestern tie, a special tie. So they had to go out and spend all this money. And then the next year, the new Commodore would have his another outfit that he wants you to wear, you know.
Well, you were lucky you weren't treasurer when Warren Bartu decided everyone should wear Bermuda shorts. I forget which year that was, but that's been, well, I've been a member.
Yeah.
It's the only picture with all of the Commodores sitting there with their knee shut. All the board, I mean.
I didn't hear about that, but that doesn't surprise me coming from Norm.
There's a picture down there in the staff Commodore's room with all the knees. So the parts then of the club like you enjoyed was the racing for stars.
Yeah, and hanging out at the bar after the races. Surprisingly, a lot of San Diego guys would come down to the Southwestern Bar because it was private and they weren't hassled by a lot of other members. They wanted to talk Starbucks stuff, and they,
that was good. It was good they felt they could, and it probably made it more fun for everybody.
yeah. And a lot of them come down now to eat for the same reason.
Little camaraderie.
And I haven't been as active as I should have been, but it was the circumstances of the Starboat. I tell a story in the foreword of the book that I was just sitting in the San Diego Yacht, or the Southwestern Bar one night, and I don't think the guy knew that I was sitting nearby. And he says, I can't understand Ed Sprague. He goes out there and beats his head against the wall against Burnham and North and all these people. That he'll never have a chance of beating. And I couldn't believe what he was saying, because just to sail stars is a delight.
And winning, I mean, you would have enjoyed winning, but you wanted to keep participating whether you...
Yeah, and once in a while I'd beat these guys.
Yeah.
And Frida told me when I was writing the book that the guy up and down the coast and across the world, everybody, Star Sailor and the crews particularly that I've met, are just the greatest group of guys. And it's all, you go to a regatta in a foreign land and it's just like old homewood. And everybody has a lot of fun. And Frida said that there's a German word that describes this feeling. What is it? It's in the book. But I says, Frida, what's it mean in German? And she says, well, if you see a group of Star Sailors together, you'll know what it means.
It's like camaraderie.
And having a good time. And
Can you spell it without us looking in the book? That's okay, we'll look in the book.
I will give you a book when you leave. Don't you want me to read it? You might find some. but it's in the forward. And Bill Buchan, a 3-time winner of the Star Class, and Lowell North has won the Star Class World Championship more than any, 4 times. And Bill Allen, who's presently president of the Star Class, wrote forwards. What do you call them? Not forwards.
Prologues at the beginning.
Buchan and Allen. Lowell didn't write it. The book has a lot of Lowell stuff in it because B. North, Lowell's current wife, was out sailing with a friend of mine, he's out in Toyama. And he says Lowell's going to clean the garage out this weekend. He's going to throw all his star memorabilia away. Put it in the dumpster. And I need to say, if you don't have any ideas, the Ed Sprague is book people love to have it. So, Mr. Star in San Diego.
So, did they give it to you then?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And it's currently at Mystic Seaport Museum. They have a big star. Have you been there?
Yes,
Neat, huh?
it's a lovely place. We've been there a couple of times. So and this was Lowell North's,
Memorabilia. Everything but his gold medals.
well, it's lucky that they thought of you when Saul Harris passed away. He gave a lot of the lightning things. Apparently, he was very involved with lightning.
He was a great guy.
Southwestern, and he gave us a lot of the lightning. But then when John...
That's a name I had forgotten.
Yeah, he was still a little active when we first joined. Well, it's good because, those things, like when John Tanner passed away, he had tons and tons of pictures and all of these things, and they just cleaned out his boat and totally disposed of all of it. All of this one fellow came up to me and said, he was almost in tears because he's an avid angler, and he said they even threw away his marlin flag, and I guess the marlin flags are like...
God.
So anyhow, I'm glad that you...
He was a great guy, but he was a character.
So, what do you, if you don't need to respond to this if you don't want to, but sometimes people like, what do you think of the direction that the club is going now?
Well, when I first joined, they had this clubhouse, not as fancy as the one we have now, and it had a terrazzo floor, which was kind of ugly, but the bar overlooked the small boat yard. You could sit at the bar, see all the small boats, and the activity that was going on out there. The current environment, you see the swing fodders and big boats. And I like the old clubhouse, and I probably like the new one even less. It seems a shame that we have to spend all this money at the port's whim.
And it is pretty much that. I think the club itself would probably have left it alone, because we have almost enough room now. But, so many people I've interviewed said just what you said, that they like the club before this one the best.
Well, that's what, I guess, us old traditionals.
And the politics goes on as usual, not maybe, it changes from time to time. But
Well, I get so I don't like to go down there because people will come up to me and say, "Ed, I don't think I've seen you down here in 4 or 5 years. I didn't see you at the Commodore's Ball." That stuff just doesn't interest me.
did it ever? Was the social life anything that you and Frida particularly involved yourself in?
If it wasn't a starboat there,
You picked out your interests and you stuck with it, huh?
yeah. And it's not to say that there's not a great group of people down there, all the people I've met are great, but my interest, star parties were usually the San Diego Yacht Club or somebody's home more often than somebody's home.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, Malin Burnham and Lowell North, and all these people have hosted a lot of star parties. We've hosted many. Ours has a German flavor.
Good.
We used to have parties for the Ashbound Oktoberfest. Really put on the dog.
Peter, were you born in Germany? No? Just.
Well,
you
grandfather-
know those good recipes and.
My grandfather and father were, and the mother was graduate of Sweetwater, as well as Rita. From that.
So that you're a native San Diego. That's pretty impressive.
And I met her at Southwestern, so Southwestern has a really,
You want to share how that happened?
Oh, no.
yes, I will. Another guy and I
We don't,
just
we don't have to put it in the story if you want.
down the street had bought a house on a speculative basis. We were gonna patch and paint and make a killing. And, we decided to retire working on the house and we would go out and sail a Star. And, it was blowing pretty good. And we came in sopping wet to the Southwestern Yacht Club dining room. So wet that when we sat down, it would switch. And as we was walking through the dining room, a former member, Ed Sprague, was sitting there with Frida, and he says to Handel and I, "Why don't you join us?" And Frida hardly said a word the whole lunch or dinner, but I was fascinated. But I determined that she worked at the Point Loma Library. So I called her for 6 months, trying to get a date. Finally, she gave in by saying that I will tonight if my friend who's flying in off a carrier in Coronado, if that doesn't happen, and it depends on when the ship's going to dock, was tonight and tomorrow night. And I said, well, I can find that out. You call a ship movement. They'll really tell you when the boat's going to dock. And sure enough, it was coming in on time. So I called Frida and I said, well, it's not tonight, but how about next Saturday night? And she was so impressed that I went to that bother. I think she condescended to going out with me.
You decided you were a person of action, and besides you were determined.
And the former member, Ed Sprague, subsequently tried to pick a fight with me in the small boatyard. Well, he did. And I didn't fight. I was sitting on top of my starboat. And shortly thereafter, he was on.
And you and Frida went on.
Yeah, then we got all ready to marry after 3 years. And
When was that?
74. And her father passed away. And she came to me and says, I can't get married for a year. I said, that's okay. I was very disappointed, but so she said.
You've had a good long time together. You have more time together, so that's. Is there anything that we didn't come across in the conversation that you'd like to have in the interview, or a story if we write it, any particular incidents that happened, or something that you really enjoy a lot or were very proud of? Or?
Who was the Commodore that had a birthmark on his face?
Roger Fitzwilson.
Poor Roger. He saw me out on washing my boat off on the small boat hoist area. And he came up to me and says, Ed, I don't believe I've ever seen a boat like that. It's had a new design. I says, it's about 100 years old, Roger. He had no clue what a starboat was all about, and anybody that sails at least knows
Seriously.
of them. What do you do? Sail or power?
No, we have a Beneteau sailboat.
Oh, you know Mike Dorgan.
I know the name, but I don't know him.
He sells them. We didn't buy it new then.
No, we actually got it in Seattle. It was on Lake Washington, and a doctor had bought it, and I just decided that he didn't like sailing after all. And so a broker here hooked us up with it, and we went up and got it like that.
Oh, where are you from?
I did here in Point Loma.
I know, but 20 years ago.
Oh, well, 20 years ago we were here, but before that we were in San.
Family's pretty,
From
Or
Pennsylvania.
my,
grandfather.
grandfather. I can't remember the name of the town.
It's where the university is, and he teaches.
No, where grandfather was from, or where my dad, who am I talking about? My grandfather.
So Roger Fitzwilson did not know about.
Well, I found it humorous.
Mhm.
I didn't say anything to it, but I found it humorous that the Commodore of my yacht club didn't know what a starboat was.
Well, we always, when we go out sailing, it's not letting anyone,
John Tappan.
Tappington would always be there when we come in from racing.
Helped tie up the boat even though he didn't need help.
Yeah.
And he was always there. It seems I would break down and
I'd always want to give him a big hug and say, thank you so much for, helping us. Because
the pointy little bow is not fun to go out to tie up.
you seem to always be there to help for years and years.
He was a machinist by trade and
He liked to operate the hoist. He didn't trust people using that hoist. And that helped us. So
he would always have
we had to keep it along.
a quick fix for any repair I was having difficulty with.
John Tappington, he and Ed.
The best times at Southwestern have been in the small boat yard with characters like Tappington, Roy Benstead, Kerry McCory, and who's the name you said earlier? I forgot him.
Bill Chrysler and.
Well, Bill Chrysler and Saul Harris.
Saul, yeah.
And there must have been other lightning people, but I can't remember too many years ago.
So the lightnings and the stars and the snipes were all in the small boat. And McCory's last name, or first name was?
Jerry,
Jerry.
Gerry.
Is he still around?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure.
A lot of, that membership thing still.
How long ago did you interview Bill?
Oh, he was, Bill and Kathy were one of the first people that I interviewed, so it was probably about 4 years ago. But I know them from Kathy's in my garden, but also, and I take flowers up every once in a while, and so I visit them in their house. But they're getting more and more frail, but, they still do.
That there's no finer guy or finer
Yeah.
lady
They're
than those
wonderful.
people.
They truly are wonderful.
What garden club?
Point Loma.
Is that Lindley's group?
Then they all still.
She's
Huh?
she's the young wife of the first star sailor I met at San Diego, Dick Slater. And that's the only reason I know her.
I didn't realize that she's married, Linda's married to him now.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was Dick Sprague, and I heard his name so many times, you know. But
In what connection?
just, yeah, the interviewing people.
Oh, really?
Because didn't he still stars also, yeah. Does he still, because I know he likes to race.
He has a Valiant 40, and he's getting frail. He's a little bit older than I am. He has a Valiant 40 that he sailed through the canal and up the east coast to the maritime provinces. And
She doesn't.
Beg your pardon?
They go to Pakistan.
You still get together with your old buddies then?
oh yeah.
Do you do that at the club, or?
Well, not so much lately, but in connection with this book and Mail and Burnham, we just finished remodeling our house, and
Wonderful.
he just built a mansion overlooking the bay from the Coronado Islands to Catholic University. I mean, that's nothing in between. And
Which street is that?
Kellogg Way,
Oh,
and he's married to a nice lady, second wife. And he said, he called me up and says, Ed, I understand you're moving back into your house. We've done a little something up here on Kellogg Way. I'd like to have you come up and see it. And we're gonna have a few friends from the yacht club over. So we get up there and it's nothing but a bunch of old star sailors. There's no just casual members of the yacht club. They're all star sailors.
must have been a fun party.
And he went around systematically to everybody. And there were guys there that didn't want to buy the book. But he would go around until each and every one of them had given me a check. Have you bought the book? Did you give Ed a check? And he would do this to everybody. And as an added kicker, what was the guy's name? It's the guy that wrote the, I think his first popular book was about the Cox Lane in Bakersfield. Famous author. Lives next door to Malin. Well, anyway, his latest book is, I think, about San Diego Yacht Club. I don't know if it is too charitable, but it's fiction. And so he says, if you buy a copy of Ed's book, you get a copy of Wamba. You get a copy of Ed's, or you get a copy of Wamba's books too, and Wamba was there. And I was a little intimidated by meeting him, but he was a quiet guy. But I sold more books that night than I have any other night. It's not, one of the best sellers.
Well, it's like a lot of books that need to be written, though. It's about a special entity that you don't want to have disappear from history. And right now, there are still starboats racing and everything, but someday there might not be,
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of history in there about the city of San Diego, necessarily. A lot of presidents spoke before World Championship regattas. I remember one, Gerald Ford, spoke in Chicago before that Worlds. But there's a lot of San Diego history in there about during the war and the members giving up their boats or having them taken away.
Very little of that.
And submarine nets, and they couldn't go out and sail on the roads.
You know Edwina Goddard, I'm sure, and Wynn is passed away now. But Edwina has all kinds of stories about submarine nets and all those things too. As they were they were very early members. I think they were members number 5 or something like that.
Joe Jessup sailed starboats, and he almost won the Worlds in Newport in 28, 29, and he lost it by 1 foot. And so he finished second, but tied for second. So they had to sail up to see who was second or third, and he lost the tiebreaker. But it's a great article in there. It's written by some guy that can really write. And he's lamenting about Star Trophy was in Southern California for so many years, the World Championship Trophy, and it went to New Orleans. And he lamented about Star Trophy, World Championship Trophies going to New Orleans.
Where is it now? Do you know?
What?
The big trophy.
It goes to the current winner, and the current winner is from New Zealand. He's an isolated member, but he's a former World Championship laser sailor, and I can't remember his name. And a lot of the new star sailors are all coming out of the laser fleet. They've established a weight limit that which makes a lot of the lighter guys more competitive. So they've gravitated to the star.
So that technology's changing that situation.
Well, there's articles in there. There's a famous writer for the Washington Post. I can't think of his name, but he writes about sailing a lot, fishing, and that kind of sporting activity. And they had a World Championship in Annapolis, and he went down there to see what was going on. And he walked into this big circus-style tent where they had all the competitors. And he saw all these little guys, and every little guy had a big guy. And all the big guys were about 6'5", 280 pounds. And Joe Londrigan, a itty-bitty guy, he won the Worlds. And he says, these starboat crews are getting out of hand. You can't be competitive in a star unless you weigh 280 or
They were
6'5".
ballast, huh?
Yeah. And so the Europeans have been clamoring for a weight limit for a long time, and the Americans were against it, mostly because
We had big guys.
yeah, because we have big guys and they have little guys. However, Enrico Ceppi from Italy was on a cruise with his wife, and he met the chef on a kitchen tour. The chef was 6'6", and was close to 300 pounds. And he went back to his people and said, in Italy and Europe, the government pays them to their expenses. And he says, tell the chef that he's now a star crew, and I'll pay him twice as much as he's making. And they went back to him and he says, well, I don't know how to sail, never been on a boat other than a liner, and I don't think I want to do this. And he was going to pay you twice as much. And he ended up being his world championship crew. So that's how important it was in those days, but now it's not so important.
Well, it's like everything, I guess we see changes in it through the years, but you were fortunate to be in it and enjoying it so much when you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I love starboats. My first wife said to me, she crewed for me for a while, as well as Reed. Never did better with any other crew other than Frida. My first wife, we were out there sailing and arguing, and I made the mistake of saying, why do you come, Diana? You don't like it. She said, because I love you. And I said, that's not good enough. You gotta want to race.
So Frida that you were crew, did you enjoy that?
Oh, she'd talk to the boat. She'd make it go fast. She'd talk to it, pet it.
I like sailing. I also took up the saddle. Oh, wow. But I never did bridge go up on the saddle.
It's a difficult boat.
Saddles.
You can't ride them. And I don't think it's safe to go unless I go with,
How long did you do the crewing with Ed?
10 years.
10 years, so you got quite a lot of it.
yeah, she'd get out in the mini hike, just like the rest of the guys. She was very popular among star sailors because it's not an easy job.
That's they admired your courage and stamina.
She retired.
So have you both sort of retired from sailing for the time being?
Yeah, I have a bad hip, and a bad heart, and a bad everything, and I'm trying to get better. But I still have a boat.
And it's still, is it still in Southwestern?
Yep.
And its name, I forgot, I always get the boat.
Ursula.
Oh, a good German name too.
That's another story.
Oh, okay.
She's a girl I met when I was in Mexico. That was my first boat's name, and
Oh, so
then
you kept it.
there were intervening names, one of which was his mother's name, Christina. And
How many different boats did you have over the years?
6. And this boat we bought in Germany at Modern Boat Works, which is near the border of Austria, and towed it to Slovenia to sail in the 1998 World Championship.
Oh, really? Oh, it just isn't so.
That's in the book.
And that was which year?
98.
And that was the World Cup there?
World Championship. We used to call it the no-wind regatta. One day we had 22 starts. Do you race?
No, my husband does some, or he did when he had a crew.
Well, starts are kind of,
Tricky.
take a lot out of you.
I've been on starts, I know.
And after 22 of those, you're a little tired. And there was a point where the star sailors got so upset with the race committee, they'd start the boats in a relatively decent breeze for Slovenia, that we found out that there just wasn't much wind there. And then they'd fire 2 guns. And after 20 of the starts, they never had a race that day because it was so late by the time they did all this. But after that, I think the 20th race, the tiller extensions have these little rubber balls on the end of them. And a start was like a drum. And if you take the tiller extension and pound on the deck, it makes a lot of noise. And there was 122 starboats going around the race committee, all doing this, showing their displeasure. And I think the race committee thought that they were going to board the race committee and kill all the people on it. And then they had a condition, there was no wind, or there was absolutely one race, it blew 70. And,
You'd be flying, wouldn't you?
well, you can't sail now. And we went out to the race area, and it was blowing about 35, and I told my crew, Kyle Hinahan, that I'm not sailing this. And so we took off and went to the next country below Slovenia for lunch. And we came back, and the race committee finally decided that it would be a good idea if they would raise a flag before we go down and get on our boats and go out when they thought there would be a race. And so when we got back, we swung by the yacht club to check out the boat, and they had hoisted the flag. It was a race, and it was 7 o'clock at night. And they wanted all the boats to go out and race. Well, they finished in the dark, and Ken Fletcher was one of the guys that raced, and he started 20 minutes late and beat 30 boats. So I wish I had gone, but they finished in the dark, and it was just a stupid deal. But there was so much pressure on the race committee to get the races in that...
I've never heard of that. They ended up finishing in the dark. Well, it's been an exciting time for both of you.
There's a lot of stories in there.
Well,
You probably read the same things that I'm talking about.
Well, mostly we want the club, I would like the club members to know about you and about what you've done. And see, that's one of the things with the turnover we have at the club too, and the people you used to be friends with leaving and moving on to another place. And so people, you lose track of the people that you were friends with.
Probably the biggest disappointment I've had with Southwestern is the book. I called the mooring line, put an ad in, and they said the ad had to be business card size, and that couldn't do justice to my boat, and I would have paid more. I said, well, that's just a policy. And then I asked for it to be sold front desk, and they said it's a policy at the club not to have them sell anything from the front desk or out to the gift shop.
Even if it's a book about sailing.
And then I called Nick, who's an old friend, who used to crew for me once in a while, and explained the dilemma, and he wasn't helpful at all. And then I thought of Jana, and I was getting kind of desperate because I wanted the word to Pep. And I said, Janet, the book sells for $75. San Diego Yacht Club selling them for $100. You can sell them for $50, or you can sell them for $75 or $100. I'll sell them to you for $50, and you can use it as a junior fundraiser. The difference, which is what San Diego Yacht Club is doing. And so Janet got all over that, and
She's a business person.
so. She said that I'm supposed to take some books down to the front office because they've been told they can sell them now. I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, I
But the
hope-
club wasn't very,
I hope that they do, and I think maybe having your story and in the morning like that might make people realize a little bit more about it than just that there's a book to buy. We'll give it a try. Okay. Well, what we'll do now is, were there any last things you wanted to say?
no.
What?
I enjoyed Southwestern over the years very much.
I'm very glad you were there too.